The tension was thick even before the cameras started rolling. Prince Harry, appearing on Kevin O'Sullivan's primetime current affairs program in London. It's meant to be the featured guest in what producers billed as a frank but fair conversation about media ethics, mental health, and his recent statements regarding royal life. Harry had been doing a selective media tour, appearing only on platforms he deemed safe enough for real discussion without tabloid sensationalism. The Kevin O'Sullivan Show was a risk. Known for his confrontational style and unapologetic commentary, O'Sullivan had publicly criticized Harry in the past, branding him a privileged victim, obsessed with self-pity. Still, Harry accepted the invitation, perhaps hoping to clear the air. Dressed in a muted gray suit, he appeared calm as he took his seat across from the host. The first few questions were standard talk of his charity work, the Invictus Games, his upcoming book, but then came the pivot. O'Sullivan leaned forward, his voice low and charged. "Do you ever feel you've weaponized your pain for profit?" Harry froze for a moment, then tilted his head, blinking as if unsure he'd heard correctly. "I share my truth," he answered steadily. "It's not about profit, it's about purpose." Asterisk, but O'Sullivan didn't back down. Yet every time something flares up in the royal family, we get a podcast episode, a documentary, or a book. Do you understand why people think you've turned personal drama into a brand? Harry's jaw tightened, gave a tight smile. "You don't get to decide the timing of someone's healing," he said. O'Sullivan interrupted. "Or is it strategic timing, Harry? People think you've made millions airing dirty laundry." The prince's composure began to shift. "You're calling truth-telling exploitation," he said, his voice now sharper. "What would you rather I do, stay silent while my wife was dehumanized and my family's pain ignored?" Kevin raised an eyebrow. "I'm asking what the public deserves. You left the royal family but can't stop talking about it. Does the silence begin?" Harry leaned forward. "Do you think silence is noble? My silence almost cost me my life." The audience, watching live, murmured audibly. The producers exchanged worried glances off camera. The interview had officially spiraled into a showdown. Asterisk Kevin, undeterred, pulled out a quote from a recent editorial Harry had written about the press's role in destroying lives. "You wrote, 'They'll never stop until someone dies.' But what about the journalists you lumped together, many of whom are just doing their jobs?" Harry blinked hard. "I didn't lump anyone. I called out abuse. If you feel targeted, maybe ask yourself why." The room grew tenser. Kevin smirked, "Touché. But don't you think people are tired of the royal martyr narrative?" That's when Harry's tone turned unmistakably cold. "I didn't come here to be psychoanalyzed by someone who's spent a decade profiting off outrage." Kevin raised both hands mockingly. "Touchy subject, huh?" Harry's hands clenched slightly. In his lap, "This isn't a subject. It's my life, my trauma, my dead mother, my family being hounded." He paused. "And if you think that's a game for television, then maybe this interview was a mistake." The silence after that was deafening. Then Kevin crossed a line. "Asterisk, you talk about your mother," Kevin said. "But some would argue Diana wouldn't have wanted this circus you've created." Harry's eyes flared. "Don't speak about my mother. You didn't know her." The atmosphere shattered. Crew members visibly flinched. Harry stood. "We're done." Kevin raised his voice. "If you can't handle questions, maybe you're in the wrong business." That's when a senior producer walked on set, live, approaching Harry and gently placing a hand on his arm. "We're cutting the segment." The feed went to a graphic. The official story moments later was that technical difficulties had interrupted the segment, but social media already knew the truth. Viewers who had recorded the show posted clips online. Within 10 minutes, #Harry Kicked Off was trending globally. Kevin O'Sullivan tweeted almost immediately, "I asked tough questions. He walked. Speaks volumes." Harry's team released a short statement calling the interview a hostile ambush masquerading as journalism. Asterisk, the backlash exploded. Prominent public figures picked sides. Piers Morgan praised Kevin, calling it the interview Harry couldn't handle. Jamila Jamil tweeted in Harry's defense, writing, "He shared his pain, and they mocked it. Again, They don't want healing. They want him broken. The BBC scrambled to clarify that O'Sullivan operated independently and that editorial choices were his own. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle, who had been notably absent from Harry's UK tours, issued no statement but was seen leaving a wellness center in Montecito hours later. Tabloids ran with headlines like "Runaway Royal Storms Out" and "Harry's Breakdown in Broadcast." But other outlets, including The Guardian and Time, criticized the tone of the interview, publishing editorials titled "When Asking Questions Becomes Attack" and "The Public's Appetite for Royal Pain is Dangerous." Mental health advocates also weighed in. Dr. Shahana Ali Pai wrote, "What Prince Harry faced wasn't journalism, it was provocation, and it triggered trauma in real time." Her viral thread detailing the psychological toll of combative interviews gained over 2 million views in 24 hours. Meanwhile, Harry's supporters launched a campaign titled #RespectBoundaries, pushing for networks to adopt guidelines when interviewing trauma survivors. Kevin O'Sullivan, facing increasing backlash from advocacy groups, doubled down. His next show, he opened with, "I'm not here to coddle royalty. If you sit in the chair, you get asked real questions." His fans cheered. His critics called it performative cruelty. And all the while, Harry remained silent, retreating from public view entirely. Meghan eventually broke the silence in an op-ed for Elle, writing, "It is not weakness to walk away from a harmful space. It's courage," though she never named. Kevin O'Sullivan, the message was clear. In California, the Sussexes refocused on their Arkowell Foundation, launching new initiatives around youth mental health and digital safety. Yet despite their pivot, the fallout from the interview haunted headlines. Netflix reportedly altered the script for their upcoming series on public narratives, now including a reenactment of the moment Harry was cut off mid-sentence. Harry's walk-off had entered cultural canon, sected, parodied, and immortalized. Behind the scenes, Palisades were reportedly disappointed but a source close to King Charles told The Times this was always going to happen. He wants to control the narrative but not be challenged. However, William, who had remained publicly silent for months, was overheard telling a confidant, "At some point, he has to stop running from conversations." The brothers had no contact after the incident. Royal biographers described the moment as a final nail in Harry's fragile credibility with the institution. But in America, public opinion remained fiercely divided. Harry was either a truth-teller being re-traumatized by a hostile media, or a fragile prince unable to face difficult questions without storming out. Ironically, the Kevin O'Sullivan segment became one of the most viewed interviews in UK TV history, despite being cut short. The clip of Harry standing up, face unreadable, voice calm but edged with fire, "We're done," was replayed on every network from CNN to Al Jazeera, was remixed into TikToks, used in motivational reels, and parodied on Saturday night. Liv O'Sullivan was nominated for a broadcast award, then faced a boycott campaign within the same week. The interview that was supposed to humanize Harry to a skeptical audience instead opened a national conversation about media ethics, boundaries, and the thin line between questioning and cruelty. In the end, Prince Harry's clash with Kevin O'Sullivan became more than just a moment, it was a mirror. A reflection of how we treat vulnerability when it wears a crown. Whether one saw Harry's walkout as weakness or strength, the moment forced the world to examine its appetite for spectacle at the cost of empathy. As headlines faded and the buzz moved on, one image remained etched in public memory. A prince, no longer bound by protocol, standing up mid-interview, refusing to be diminished, and walking out not with rage, but with the weight of knowing that in a world hungry for scandal, choosing peace often comes at the highest price. In the end, Prince Harry's clash with Kevin O'Sullivan became more than just a moment, it was a mirror. A reflection of how we treat vulnerability when it wears a crown. Whether one saw Harry's walkout as weakness or strength, the moment forced the world to examine its appetite for spectacle at the cost of empathy. As headlines faded and the buzz moved on, one image remained etched in public memory. A prince, no longer bound by protocol, standing up mid-interview, refusing to be diminished. and walking out not with rage, but with the weight of knowing that in a world hungry for scandal, choosing peace often comes at the highest price.